Welcome back to Farmer Brown's Paradise. This video is going to probably be the last Christmas video I do of a project, although I might throw in a little cooking video, some of my favorite holiday treats. After that, I will be doing a home tour, a Christmas home tour, so be sure to look for that, and that will wrap up our whole little section of 2018 Christmas at Farmer Brown's Paradise. Today I'm going to make a mesh wreath again, but this time it's called a cut mesh wreath. Has a very different look to it. It's very airy. So again, we're going to start with our work wreath that has the work wreath ties on it. This is a little bit smaller one because I'm going to be putting it around the corner on my pantry barn door, the sliding barn door, and it's only, that door is only like 26 inches wide. So I think this is an 18-inch wreath. So we'll get started. Again, the first thing you want to do is stand up your work ties so that you can see them. Makes it a lot easier. And then around the outside, just do them straight out. The other things that you're going to need to make this, other than the work wreath, obviously some mesh. This is a really pretty one. I really like it. It's a combination of a moss green and a jute. Let me come close, I'll show you. Can you see that? Moss green and jute combined. Now when you're making these wreaths, you don't always have to have some little center embellishment, but I like to do that because it just adds, I don't know, a flair to the wreath. So this time I've chosen one that I really love, Sweet Home Alabama. Now I ordered this off of Etsy. You can get the cutouts of all 50 states on Amazon. They don't, most of them have writing on them, so you would have to write whatever phrase you wanted to for your state. But here's a quick little image. I grabbed some images from Amazon just to show you what they look like. In addition to an embellishment for the center, you're going to need some stems. These are really nice ones because they're real wiry and thin, and I want this to look really airy. This definitely is wintry because it's a pine branches and have some small little pine cones. Then also, I have some cotton balls that I would like to add into it, and I may or may not add these, we'll just see. I've got a few of these pine cone stems. You're also going to need some ribbon. I've chosen 3, and we'll talk about those when we get to that part. So let me move this stuff out of the way, and I'll show you how to do the mesh into the wreath. Again, I'm just going to let the mesh fall to the ground. It's much easier to work with that way. And I gather it up to the center, and I want to have about 4 inches. You can go longer, like 6 inches, but that's just going to give you a lot bigger wreath, and you'll need more embellishments to fill it in. So gathered it about 4 inches. I'm going to open one of the ties on the center of the wreath and push it all the way down, making sure that it's all the way down onto the metal frame, and give it a couple of twists. Now I'm going to gather the mesh up in my hands, and instead of doing loops on a cut mesh wreath, you're just going to cut the mesh to be about the same 4 inches. You're just going to go around the whole wreath at every work tie exactly the same way I just did. You can fluff it out as you go if you like. So let me go all the way around the wreath doing this, and then we'll come back. You can fluff it out. Anytime you cut mesh, it's going to fray on the end, but I like that look. I think it's light and airy and not heavy, so I'm not going to worry about it fraying. The next step is to add your embellishment. If you're adding one in, I had to drill some holes in my sign here, and I'm using pipe cleaners. And you want to go all the way back to the wireframe. Don't try to attach it to the work wreath ties because it just won't hold. So you need to go all the way back in. So let me do that. I like it. On the last mesh wreath I made, I put the stems in next, but this time I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put the ribbon on first because it's going to be prominent, and then I will add the stems. So I've chosen 3 ribbons. I've got this nice linen-y looking stripe in the brown and the tans and the greens. I think that's going to look really nice in there. And then I have this plaid, kind of a burlappy plaid in the black and the caramely tan. And lastly, the piece de resistance. Is that how you say it? Piece de resistance is this faux Dupani silk. Very actually expensive ribbon, and it will be used the least because there's not that much yardage and it's very dramatic. So I'll show you the 3 ways that I'm going to put in the ribbon. This first way is going to take probably close to the whole 10-yard roll. And I've cut my cute little V. I'm going to come down about 5 inches. And I'm going to make a bow. So to make my bows, where I'm holding it between my finger, my thumb and my forefinger, I'm going to twist, bring it toward me and back, make the loop, twist, arthritic fingers, you really have to hold on to it. Twisting keeps the right side of the ribbon facing up, and it also helps the bow to stand up, as I've said before. So these are pretty good size loops, about 5 inches, but it needs it for it to really show up. So I'm going to pick a spot. I think I'll start right up here on both ties and tie it in to one of the work wreath ties. You can shake the bow, shake the tail. Now I'm going to take the tail and I'm going to loop it down to this next work wreath tie. And I'm going to cut it off. I think it's easier to work with the ribbon in sections. And I like working in sections too because you have all these little extra tails, and I think it's very attractive looking. Now I'm going to do it again, going over the whole wreath. This ribbon here will be used the most, and like I said, it will probably take almost the full 10-yard roll. Well, the first ribbon of bows and loops are in, and I almost used the whole 10 yards. Have a little piece left. The second ribbon I'm going to use is the black and caramely tan check. It won't take the whole roll. It'll only take about 3 or 4 yards, depending on exactly how many you put in. And with this, I'm not going to make bows. I'm just going to pinch in a tail and then pick a spot to put it, maybe right here in the middle of this bow. Twist that in. Make a loop. Maybe down here to this next tie. And cut the tail. Now I will go through with this ribbon, step back and look and kind of see where I think I want them. Probably in here, here, here. I'll probably do about 5. So let me do that and I'll come back for the last beautiful ribbon. I added 5 pieces with a loop of this plaid, which probably took about 2.5, maybe 3 yards. And now for the beautiful ribbon. This is a faux Duponi silk, and it is double-sided, so it's expensive ribbon. I will use it the least, probably 2 yards, maybe a little less. And I'm just going to put cut pieces in. I like the greens in here. Actually, it has nearly all the colors that I'm going for. But adding this in last is going to bring the color of the wreath back out. So I'm just going to pick a spot, maybe right up here. This is a really thick ribbon. Cut my tail. Just love the look of that. So I will go through now and add pieces like that. They're about probably 7 inches long. I don't pre-cut them. I just kind of hold them up and see where I think they're going to look good. And I'll probably put them in most of the fronts just to add some color here and there. Now to add in the stems. I chose 3 of these little pine stems with little tiny pine cones on them because for 2 reasons. One, they looked airy, and secondly, every single branch is wired so it can be moved easily. So I can cut this in pieces, but what I've done is taken one of the branches and kind of pulled it downward, kind of moving these around a bit. And what I'm going to do is pick a tie in here, twist it in really, really well. When you have a long branch like this, you want to try to secure it in 2 to 3 places, just to make sure that it's going to stay really well. And then you can bend them around and pull them in and out of the mesh. I think that looks really nice with those little pine cones, the baby pine cones and the stems. I didn't use all 3, and I started cutting apart some smaller branches just to add in little spots. But I think it looks nice and airy. So now to the last stem. Directly across from my pantry, where this is going to hang on the barn door, the sliding barn door, I have a buffet table. And on the table is a canister that has some cotton and wheat and things in it. So I thought it would be cool to add some cotton into this wreath since they're kind of across from each other. This is actually a Christmassy one. You might be able to see it has a little bit of glitter on these little pods, the outer pods. So it'll also bring some lighter colors back to the forefront. Well, I believe that'll do it. You kind of have to know when to stop adding as well. So let's see it in place, shall we?